Hey guys, it's Kyle Thompson here with eXp Realty, bringing you another weekly market update, and this week we're focusing on apartments. Let's dive right in. Okay, starting off big picture. Last month we had 38 new listings, 22 new sales. The average list price was $366,677. The average sale price was $353,991, which gave us an average sale price to list ratio of 96.11. The average days on market was 71.64, and we ended the month with an inventory of 178 units. So let's take a look at what that does for the market conditions. As always, I use both the monthly supply of inventory method as well as the sale to new list ratio, as I find using both measurements gives them a complete picture of what's going on in the market. With that said, using the monthly supply of inventory method, we came in at 7.82, which puts us firmly into a buyer's market, whereas if we use the sale to new listing ratio, we came in at 58%, which puts us in a neutral market bordering on a seller's market. But that's due to the way the inventory is coming up this month, which we will see right now when we look at the active inventory last month. So month over month, new listings fell from 48 down to 38. Sales fell from 23 down to 22, so remained relatively flat. And expireds also remained relatively flat, going from 9 up to 10. And the benchmark price for an apartment in Kamloops fell $2,100 from $378,700 down to $376,600. But as you can see, new listings are falling while the sales are remaining relatively flat, which is why it looks like it's bordering on a seller's market. Now let's move on to the end of month inventory. Last month, we ended the month with an inventory of 178 units, which is 36% above the trailing 10-year average this time of year of 131. And currently, this is the second highest in the past decade. Now, moving on to new listings. So far, year to date, there's been 497, which is the second highest in the past 10 years. And currently, we are sitting about 24% above the trailing 10-year average of 401. Now let's move on to units sold. So far, year to date, there's been 217 units sold, which is the second lowest in the past decade, only ahead of last year. And currently, we are sitting about 17% below the trailing 10-year average of 261. Now let's move on to the sales dashboard, starting off with average sale price. These tables in this update are measuring a full year over a full year, so year over year. And when looked at that way, in aggregate, prices are relatively flat. They're only up about 0.6%. And currently, the most expensive areas of town for apartments are Juniper, Westside, and Sun Peaks, whereas the cheapest areas are South Kamloops, Brock, and the North Shore. Now, let's move on to the sale to list price ratio. So all this is a measurement of how much properties are selling below the list price on average, and it's a good proxy for how much negotiating room you have when you are the buyer. With that said, last month, the sale to list price ratio went up about 0.5%, meaning that you have slightly less negotiating room when you are the buyer. Now let's move on to sales by sub area. This is full year over full year again, and in aggregate, sales are up about 7%, rising from 255 up to 273. If you want to take a closer look at the sub areas, feel free to pause the video. I'm moving on to average days on market, starting off with the 10-year. So far, year to date, it's taken an average of 66 days for apartments to sell, which is about 5% above the trailing 10-year average of 63. If we look at the trailing 12 months instead, we see that month over month, it fell by 15 days from 87 down to 72. However, we are still about 7% above the trailing 12-month average of 67. Finally, let's look at days on market by sub area. This is full year over full year again. And in aggregate, days on market has risen from 52 up to 66, so a 14-day increase, which is about 26%. And currently, the fastest areas of town that are selling are Valley View, Brock, and Pine View, ranging from 32 days up to 44 on average. And the areas taking the longest to sell are Sun Rivers, Dallas, and Juniper. Oh, sorry, are Dallas, Juniper, and Sun Peaks, all with an average days on market ranging between 82 up to 127 days. That's all we have for today. I really hope that you guys are continuing to get value out of these market updates. If you are, please consider liking and subscribing to my YouTube channel. And if you ever feel like you want something added to these market updates, or maybe something needs to be more thoroughly explained, please feel free to leave your comments or suggestions in the comment section below, and I'll get to them as soon as I'm able. I appreciate you taking the time, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.